to shred on guitar in harmonic minor. Today's guitar speed tutorial is based on straightforward concepts that are proven to build your guitar speed. I'll start by teaching you 4 versions of the same shred guitar idea. You can play this in harmonic minor or the Phrygian dominant scale. If you like that cool Yngwie Malmsteen-type neoclassical shred guitar style, you're going to love this guitar lesson video. So grab your guitar and let's develop your fretting hand dexterity and your picking speed and your two-hand synchronization. Now, I've taught these same techniques to hundreds of my private online guitar students who couldn't play very fast, and now they do. So today is your turn. Grab that guitar and let's go. Here is example number 1. All right, so what we have there is just a 6-note repeating pattern, and then it repeats, and then we have a 4-note pattern. So the first time goes down to there, repeat, and then the last 4 notes are just this. So it doesn't go down to the index finger. So it's really cool. As you see, it's alternate picking here, which if you know what directional picking is, this is also, in this case, also directional picking. They just happen to line up to be exactly the same motions of down and up. The philosophy of alternate picking is different than the philosophy of directional picking, but essentially it ends up in this case being the same. So one thing that I recommend to do is try it palm muted, try it not palm muted, and you'll get a different sound. They both sound cool. All right, so example 1, what I was just playing, is based on the A harmonic minor scale. So the next example, example number 2, is also going to be based on that same scale. And it's going to start here with the index finger on the 13th fret of the 3rd string, then the 3rd finger, then the middle finger, then the 1st finger, then back up. So that's a pretty cool one. It's a little easier than the first one, at least for me. We'll see how it is for you. But it's the index finger, 3rd finger. So we're using fingers 1, 2, and 3. We're not using our 4th finger for this one. You could, if you wanted to do it that way, it would be a little harder. But you could certainly do it that way. The picking is alternate picking or directional picking again. It sounds cool. It'll sound really cool over an E chord. So play an E chord and then rip on this. It sounds really, really cool. Now, the reason why the first example and this example help you to build speed is because the difficult part is the string changes, right? Right, this is the easy part, right? When you're on the same string, that's not very difficult. It's changing strings that makes it difficult. So when we set up the pattern with 6 notes, the string change doesn't occur that frequently because we've got, a section of 6 notes and only one of those notes is on a different string. But when we get to the end of the pattern where we have 4 notes, right, the string change occurs a little bit more frequently, or a little sooner, I should say. So if we just practice that, that's a lot harder than this. But in this case, with both the first example and the second, we've got a pattern of 6, another pattern of 6, then a pattern of 4, and then repeat. So it sounds cool. It sounds very mean, especially over an E chord, E7, E major, whatever. It's very cool. It has that Phrygian dominant kind of sound, that harmonic minor sound. It's very cool. It's very aggressive. and it helps you to build these licks help you to build speed and two-hand synchronization pretty quickly. Now, before we go any further, I've got another video on YouTube called 7 Neoclassical Metal Guitar Licks, Shred Guitar Lesson. You might want to check that out. The stuff that we're doing here, this speed building stuff, will help you play those licks, those neoclassical licks, and the kind of two videos go nicely together. All right, now let's take a look at example number 3. So this one, basically we've got the same thing, a set of 6 notes. Then we're going to repeat those same 6 notes. Then we've got a set of 4 notes. So because we have these groups of 6, 6, and then 4, it gives the lick a much more aggressive feel. If we just had a set of 6 notes and then another 6 and another 6, another 6, or 4, 4, 4, 4, that would also sound cool, but it wouldn't be quite as, at least in my opinion, it wouldn't be quite as aggressive. It's that change of where this high note is, where you're accenting. That change of where that accent falls rhythmically is what gives the lick its aggression, really. That plus the fact that we're playing in harmonic minor. So again, we've got alternate picking or directional picking. Now, one thing we haven't talked about with any of the examples, the key for the left hand, for the fretting hand, to build the speed is this finger, the index finger, okay? So it's not the little finger, or it's really the index finger. Why is the index finger the key? Because it is the only finger that needs to play on 2 strings. So it's important that when you come down here, that you don't get lazy and leave this finger on. Okay, we don't want to get lazy there and do this. So a lot of people will do this. And they got all their fingers on, and now it's like, oh, I've got to go play this note over here. Well, it's too late now. There's not enough time to really move that finger in an efficient way. So we want to pick this finger up right away, right there. So when we play these notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when you get to the 5th note, this one right here, that finger has to come up immediately. If it doesn't, if it's lazy, if you leave it down, it's going to make it much harder to play the note on the 2nd string, okay? So when you're doing this, make sure that there's only 1 finger on the guitar at a time and not 2. So we don't want that, and we definitely don't want this. That's going to make it exponentially harder to get to that note in time, okay? So it's going to make a big difference if you take that finger off or if you leave it down. All right, there's one more video I want to mention to you before we go on to our next example. And the video here on YouTube that I have is called Effortless Neoclassical Guitar Licks, Yngwie Malmsteen style. If you love Yngwie like I do, it's a great style. Go out and buy all his albums. It's awesome. He's awesome. But I've got some set of licks, neoclassical licks, in the style of Yngwie. They're not his actual licks, but they're in the style. Now let's move to example number 4. All right, so on this one, it's essentially the same as example number 2. It's just that we're playing 1 octave higher. So instead of playing on strings 3 and 4, which I think is actually a little easier, we're now playing on strings 1 and 2. All right, now again, it's still alternate picking or directional picking. We're using fingers 1, 2, and 3 only. And as I said previously, it's really important that this finger, the index finger, comes off when it's not playing. So right there, this finger's got to be off the guitar. Now, Unlike the previous example, example 3, this finger not only has to change strings, but it has to change frets. So it's going to move from here to here, from fret 15 to fret 16 as we change strings. So if I play this really slowly, watch what happens. Just watch the index finger, ignore everything else, and watch what happens with my index finger when I'm not playing it. So if I take the notes out, I'm just doing this. That's what's happening. The finger not only comes off the string, but it starts moving over to whatever the next string is. So it's doing this motion while these fingers are doing their notes in between. So watch that again. Now if I stop at that speed, you notice that this finger is just doing this. Can you do that? Of course you can. Can your grandmother do that? Of course you can. This is not difficult, okay? Even if we speed it up, it's not that hard, okay? Anyone can do this. You can certainly do this. You can do it with left-handed, right-handed. It's not that hard to do, okay? These fingers just have one note to play each, so they don't have a difficult job to do. The only thing that's challenging is the transfer from one note to the next. But the fingers are not really moving very fast. Even at that speed, that's some pretty good speed, but the fingers are not moving that quickly. It's just the transition from one finger to the next, that's what's happening quickly. But none of the fingers are moving that fast. And the reason I bring this up is that a lot of times when guitar players or guitar students want to focus on building their speed, they think in their mind that their fingers need to move really fast. They got to have fast fingers. Well, there are some things where your fingers do have to move fast, like a trill, for example. But many things on the guitar don't actually require your fingers to move that fast. It's just the transfer from one note to the next note, or one finger to the next finger. Often that is fast, but the fingers are not actually moving that fast. Now let's talk about how do we practice this stuff. How do you take this guitar speed tutorial, this how to shred stuff, this harmonic minor, Yngwie style, how do you practice this stuff? Well, I'm sure you've heard the advice, start slow, build up the speed gradually over time. Now, that advice isn't necessarily wrong, it's just very incomplete. That's just one way in which you might practice this. So instead, what I'm going to recommend is to keep the speed high, but just play just a few notes at a time. So maybe you would take 2 notes and just work on those 2 notes, getting that really quick. And then 3 notes, and then 4 notes. You don't have to play the whole thing slow and then build this, bring the metronome speed up over time. You can do that, it's not wrong, but there are other ways to build speed in combination with that, which will get you faster, or it will help you to build the speed faster sooner. Now, if you want to learn how to double your guitar speed while cutting your practice time in half, I'll show you how in my new free e-guide titled Double Your Guitar Speed While Cutting Your Practice Time in Half. It's totally free, no strings attached. Click on the link below to download your copies so that you can increase your speed on the guitar very quickly.